All right. So, welcome everyone to our last Accudemia Monthly session of the year. We're so excited to see you today. Um, Let me go over our agenda, and then I'll have a little bit of housekeeping before I hand things over to Nick. So we are going to start with our Tech Talk. So Nick is going to be presenting on collecting feedback through surveys in academia. I know this is a big one for a lot of schools, and if you are collecting surveys but through a different system, hopefully today you'll learn more about how to use that in academia and maybe some information about why it's a good idea to do that in academia if you can. We will take questions about that topic, and then we will also have an open Q&A session about anything related to academia. And then finally, we'll have our user spotlight, and this month's speaker is going to be Becky Donaldson from Cleveland State Community College. And we're going to have her on to talk a little bit about her experience using academia. And a note about our keynote, usually this is the point where I would say when our next keynote is, but as some of you may know, in January, we typically skip that because we do those the first week and everybody's still kind of coming back the first week of January. So we just skip January. We are going to have that in February. We do have a speaker lined up, but the details of that are still being worked out. So just keep an eye on our social media. And if you are interested in being a presenter for a future session, I'm always looking for folks for future keynotes. I'd love to hear from you. If you want to email me, rachelc@engineerica.com, and keep an eye on our email and on your emails from us and social media channels. And about a month before that February date is when we will open up registration and announce what the topic's going to be. And the next bit of housekeeping, we are actually finalizing details right now for our next Academic Center Summit. We had this session over in, we had this summit over in October here in Orlando near our company headquarters. It was a really great success. It was really great to meet so many academia users and other folks in higher education. We had two speaking tracks. We had professional development sessions related to lots of different topics in higher ed. And we also had academia training and informational sessions to learn more about how to use academia. We had two great keynote speakers, Michael Frizzell and Corey Hammond. And if you were not able to attend this summit in person, we are making those available for anybody who wants to attend virtually. They can view the sessions from the summit. I'm putting the link to register for that in the chat, and that is going to give you access to those sessions for at least 90 days to watch at your own pace. And now I'm going to hand things over to Nick for the Tech Talk.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so basically we're going to cover how to create a survey, clone a survey if it's like a really popular one and you want to rerun that. So they are going to be like time specific, so that's the reason why we'd have that cloning. Also how you would test or preview the survey, as well as like if you needed to start or stop a survey, maybe there was something you needed updated on it. You could stop it and then restart it. And then we'll also look at, removing surveys if you needed to. Maybe you accidentally created it and didn't need it, so you can remove those. And then finally, kind of going through as a student to see those surveys in action. So when you go ahead and create a survey, it's going to ask for some general information as well as some advanced settings. We also have email notifications and a way to like inactivate or sort of like stop the survey with a status. So we'll see all those details. I'm actually going to go in the software to go through each one of those and explain exactly what each one of these options do. Sometimes the labeling or the names might be a little off, so we try to define it here. But basically there's three main components: is really defining how the survey will go out, and if there are any notifications and all of that. The next part is your questionnaire. So this is where you're just going to build all your questions and answers. If there's multiple choice options, or if you just wanted to fill in the blank, you can do either. And we also have the sign-in basis. So, on here, this particular example that I have on the screen, they're doing it based on the service. So they have a service tab, but the tab will change depending on what the sign-in basis or what the reason for kind of the survey is. So before we go into cloning, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to step into Accudemia. I have a lovely pink theme here going on. So to get to the surveys, first you're going to go to Administration, Center Management, and Surveys. Once you're under that section there, you're going to see any of your previous surveys. And if you've never created one before, this is going to be blank. But something you can note if you had some previous ones is you have different statuses on them. So if it was like a one-time survey that was going to a group, it'll say sent. It could be an active survey. I can also filter this view. So let's say I want to see only those that are started or sent. So these are ones that are, for instance, still active and going out. And I can also look at all the ones that I've stopped or that haven't been sent yet. All right, so let's take a look at all these options that we have. So the first thing is just to give it a name. Nobody except for admins on the back end will see this name. So you can call it anything that will maybe help you identify it. So if I knew this was like center questions, just because they came in my center. And then I might actually put the semester that I wanted that to go out to. So let's say fall 2024, because these are going to be time specific surveys. So next is how do I want this to be displayed to the user? How often, kind of like the frequency. So I have only once, where they would get it only one time, reoccurring, and you'll actually be able to define how often they would get that. Or I can even do to specific users of a group. So this is really handy if, let's say I have groups uploaded for different demographic reasons, maybe like my freshmen, I need to send out a survey to them. I could also do it based on like groups of students that have visited the center. So, from a report, I could build a group out from that. So this would be like a one-time send. And that's where you see the difference between the send or started and stopped, because these other ones can be started and stopped. This is going to be a one-time send. So you'll notice a lot of the options go away. We really just go into like advanced and email notifications after that. But let's say this is the most common. So let's say I do a one-time or reoccurring. These are pretty similar. So they're going to give you these other options. So the next thing is what triggers the survey. And this is basically two options. You have based on a sign in at a kiosk, or if they log into Accudemia from the back end. So either event could actually trigger that. Now, students and tutors are the only ones that sign in through a kiosk. So if you'll notice, the instructors and admins are kind of grayed out. But if I choose the Accudemia login, I can actually have one that goes out to other groups like instructors or admins. Maybe it's something like, we're renaming the center. What do you guys think? And you want to have it go out to every person that logs in. So just up to you how you do that. Now, because we're doing it, I changed it back to the kiosk. I could have a sign-in basis. So this is because they sign into either a particular center, service, they signed up for a session with a particular advisor or tutor, or maybe a course or activity that they signed in for. And each one of these, the bases are going to change the tab up here. So if I was doing it service, tutor. Now tutors can be used in multiple centers, so we still get the center option just so that it's center specific. And then same with the courses, because courses can be used in multiple centers. So I want to make sure that we do have the right center selected. But in this, services are specific to a center, and then centers, you get that tab. If we just look at it, it's just going to give you a checkbox for each of the centers. You might not have as many centers, but you could check, which centers will have that go off. Or if it was services, I'd have a drop down with which center, and then the service that I want it to go out for. So I'm going to just do it based on my center and check off, I think I'll do the math tutoring center. Okay, so now when does this appear for them? So we have pending surveys. This is going to show up just outside of the sign-in process. Basically, when they log into Accudemia, there will be a pending surveys section that they can complete that, so they never get presented with it. But you could have settings down here that will email them so they know that they have a survey to take. The other options are at sign in or at sign out. So since they are going through the kiosk process, and this should work with virtual drop-ins or in person. So it'll work either way. But you can have it presented at sign in, sign out, or like I said, where it just goes to their pending surveys. So now we choose our audience. In this one, in this case, I want to have it go out to students to see how they thought the center was doing. And because we did reoccurring up here, now in the advanced, it wants to know the frequency. So if I do 1, that's going to be like every visit. I could do like 2 for every other, and so on and so forth, like 3 every third visit. I'm just going to do 1 so we see it come up right away. And I could also have a pop-up reminder. So if I did have it actually go into their pending surveys, it could come up as a pop-up when they log in. And you can choose, like, if I say 0 days here, it'll come up the very next login. If I give them like 1 or 2 days, then it'll come up, after that time period. But this is a one-time kind of pop-up after that. I think it might come up again if they didn't complete it, but yeah, it should come up as after the days that you put. We also have the option to force, and what this does is it basically gets rid of the cancel. So if they want to back out of it, they won't really be able to. So if you use something like 0 here again, they won't be able to cancel out of it. If I said like 3 days, maybe they see it initially, but then after the third time of seeing it, maybe, that's if they log in every day, but then they would get forced to kind of answer that. And then if I were to save the survey without choosing dates, it's going to complain at me. So I do need to make sure it is for that semester. And we're going to start it from today, let's say, till maybe the end of our semester. And I can also send an email notification. Now, this is delayed about 2 hours after they've visited, just to give them time to complete it. If, let's say, it was being sent through their interface or however they were getting that. And then the next one is a reminder. In all 3 of these options that we have, there's an email template that you can customize for each of those as well. So I could say something like 1 day later, 2 day later, or whatever days that you want those reminders to go out. Typically, the longer away from the session, the more they're going to forget. So you want to try and get them maybe to get that answered pretty quickly. So maybe 2 and 5, whatever days seem good. Questionnaire. So now we're going to build out the questionnaire. Now this is actually the survey title that they will see. So this title you do want to kind of, knowing that they're going to see it, have it maybe make more sense to them. So you could say something like, how are we doing? And it won't really show up on the report. It's actually going to be up by the name that you gave it, but this is what they see. So we also have a page title. So I just hit an add page button. Sometimes I just use this to give additional instructions. There is a description. You could delete this and then put it in as a description. Okay, so we're going to accept that. And now we're on to the questions. So I'm going to add my first question and you can go ahead and edit the question. Now this is a text editor, so I can choose like if I want it to be a little bigger. Maybe I want to highlight or bold something. And so in this one, I'm going to do a scale. So I'm going to say, how would you rate your service? And then for the options, I have open text response where they could write kind of like a little paragraph, um, or multiple choice or a label. So label would be if you have a long survey that you wanted to break into different sections. So maybe, um, I've had some people do like a survey that goes out after their session and maybe asks like, okay, these are subject specific questions versus, um, depending on if it was like an activity-based one, and then general questions. So you might use labels to separate out your questions like that. Um, and I'm going to make this, like I said, multiple choice. I'm going to make it required that they answer that. You can have optional, so if you had like a comments field, we'll see that in a second. And I can also allow multiple choices or like just a single choice. So I'm just going to say, you know, just kind of create a quick scale. And I'm going to use a weight system so that if I ever had to graph this out, they would have like a numeric value. And I'm just quickly kind of coming up with a scale here. And it doesn't actually give you like an option to add like a scale right away. So you might look this up and see um, if you have like one that you like using for the wording. So you can always go back, change the order, or delete these options and add additional options. We're going to add another question. This kind of going to make it a multiple choice option. Okay. And we're going to do multiple choice, but this time I'm going to allow multiple options to be selected. And I'm not going to weight these. We'll just do, all right. And I'm just trying to give us some options here so we can see that. And I'll quickly make like an additional comments. And I'm not going to make this a required one for this. So go ahead and make that a little bigger. We'll leave it open text with it not being required. So the first two are, and the last one isn't. Okay, so I think that's good. I'm going to go ahead, before I save the changes, I'm going to go ahead and preview it just to see. And this basically just gives me a little window to kind of see what that'll look like. And I can fill it out, but it really doesn't go anywhere with that. So I was able to select multiple ones here, pick one option here, and then, type any kind of things that I wanted here. But I'll just close out of that for now. And let's see. Okay, so make sure I have my center selected. And when I go to save it, it should ask, do I want to activate it now or not? So I can say no, and maybe there's some changes I need to still make or only filled out half the settings. And it'll let you know like if you missed something that's required to save it, at least right now. So I'm going to say no so that we can start the survey later. Okay, and let's see. Oh, I have a lot in here, so let me filter these by not started. Actually, that didn't help. Let's do based on centers. There we go. This was it. Okay, and you can see it stopped. Now I can come back here, check the box. I can either clone it, preview, start it, delete it. Those are some of the other options that we're going to go into. But yeah, so that's really getting it created. And let's go back. So cloning. One of the great things about this, if I did make a mistake with the survey, I can't really change some of the settings once it's already been published. So if I have to go back and make changes that maybe were one of the ones that get locked once it's published, I could always clone the survey and then delete the original one and then start off again. Um, hopefully you would do this before you got any responses, but that's one of the advantages. Also, for the next semester, if I want to go ahead and run that same survey, but anytime I clone a survey, it'll give me the opportunity to make any kind of changes necessary before I save that survey and it gets locked again. So let's look at that. All right. So let's say I'm going to prepare for the spring since this is almost over. So I'll go ahead and clone. And you can see I have all the different options. It puts the word clone here. So I'm just going to delete all that and just put spring 2024. We will have to change the dates, of course. Let's say we can come back on the 6th. And I want it to run through the end sometime in May. All right. And just make sure everything still looks good. Make sure my center is selected and save. And do I want to activate it? No. So you can see I have the same survey um, and I could go ahead and maybe start this one. So really just checking it and hitting start. There's also these mouse over options where I could do that. So if I had a really long list and it was at the bottom, I could actually still do this without having to come back to the top. So I'm going to start the current one so we can see that in action. Okay, so it's center based and it started. And I think it was this one. And it should just be for that math tutoring center. So if we set up a kiosk for that, we should be able to test that here in a second. Oh. We've already seen how to preview it several times. Okay, so start, stop, and delete. Stopping is really just the opposite. It's basically just taking it down if you accidentally started it maybe too early. Or you want to end a survey early, like you're good with the results that you have. Okay, and now we're going to go into the testing. So typically what I'll do is have a test student available. So I have one in my account that I created. If you need to create one, you'd go under your users and just go ahead and do a new account and make sure they have at least an ID, first and last name. Email is helpful in case you wanted to see what kind of emails they'll get. But I know I created somebody with all 5s. Here we go. So I've got a tester here ready to go. And what I'm going to do just to set that up, I'm going to go ahead and do quick sign-in station. Make sure I'm in the right center that survey was supposed to go out to. And I could test it here, but I could also set up and log out. And we're going to go ahead and see. I did have this at sign in, so it should hopefully come up once I select a reason. Okay, pick their course. Yes, okay, so here's our survey. How would you rate your service? And what'd you like about the center? And obviously these can be more complicated. I was just trying to show you the basics of those form options. There we go. And they're signed in and ready to go. So yeah, if I have one that goes through the sign-in process, I might want to make it brief like that. Whereas if I'm sending it to their pending surveys, then you know, I may want to, I might be okay with having it a little bit longer. And there's 2 ways that they could access this. I actually logged in as that student, and they'll see it in their pending surveys here under their name. But also, and then it shows like any surveys that they have to take, and if they didn't take them. If you stop a survey though, it will take them out of that list. So that's why you want to make sure that you do go back and stop those. So these are like old. I would have had to stop those so they don't show up. And I have had people also email, even though we have the reminders, you can email a group of students that maybe visited to remind them separately. What was else? Oh, from the homepage, they also have a pending surveys section here that will only appear if they actually have surveys to take. So that might be a quick and easy way if you ask the student to sign in. If you don't see this section, then they don't have any surveys that are triggered for them. That's pretty much it, I think. Yep.
All right, thanks, Nick. Any questions regarding the surveys? Thank you so much for that.
I
And
have one quick question, just for
go ahead.
clarification, if I could.
Sure.
Nick, one of the options was email. So we can just email a survey directly to students without it being triggered at the sign-in. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if you had like a group that you either created based on a report or like let's say you're importing them regularly anyway, then you could actually send out to that group like, hey, here's a survey, and it's a one-time thing though. So if you needed to send it out multiple times, you would just clone that and then send it again. So,
Okay.
but yeah, for the one that sends out, it is only a one-time option though. So
Yeah, so I'm thinking we send one at the end of every semester just to get a snapshot of the overall reflection of the semester.
yeah,
But we would want to send it to every student who visited, whether they came once or they came daily.
right.
But I'd have to create a group for that.
Yeah, and actually, let me show you that real quick. It's a good thing you brought it up. Because I kind of wanted to show this, even though I didn't go in it on the PowerPoint. So it's really cool, like convenient feature here to be able to create a group on the fly. So especially like based on data that you've already collected. So if I go into data analytics and reports here, and let's say I just pull, maybe I don't even want the report. I'm trying to build this group or whatever, but you know, you might want the report too. But let's say I wanted for like what you were saying, the whole semester of students that visited into a group. What I would do is probably go into center reports, and I could search for it. I know the name is like a detailed attendance, maybe attendance by service or something like that. And we have this little checkbox option that says like create a group based on this report. So I could get as specific as I wanted. So let's say all of the current semester, and maybe only if they came in for certain services at my center. I'm just going to use all the services. I just want everything. You don't even have to do this filter if it's going to be everything, but yeah, you might get all the centers if you have access to them. So we'll make sure we just do the math center. And then um, once you have everything the way you want it, it doesn't matter what type of report, but because we have this checked and I run it, that triggers a new group being created. And where you see that is under administration, user management, users, and oh goodness, user management groups. Sorry, it was right under that. And in here, we have two different types of reports. So the custom ones are the ones that I'm either uploading regularly, or these could have been ones that I created from a report previously. But what you're going to see is this report generated group. So it's going to give you the name of the report that was ran and what time period it was ran for. And you can see, well, hopefully you have more test data or whatever. But I have two members. So if I actually want to create this into a custom group that won't go away, because these go away after I think 30 days, is sort of like the report's history in a way. But all I have to do is give it a name. So I could call this my fall 2024 Math Center visitors, and be as specific as you want. Just save that. Now it actually shows up in my custom. So if I do like, there it is. So there it is, tutoring center. Oh wait, no, math center visitors. Okay, I gotta get more specific with my naming. If I want to see who those people are in that group, I can do show selected, and you can see who those visitors are. Um, now, if I want to, create a survey based on that, here, let's go back to that. Center management surveys, new survey, users in a group. I would select that group. it's supposed to take me over here, and if not, you can just click that tab, but I would look for that. So there it is, Math Center visitors, and just make sure I have my questionnaire filled out and everything like that. And if I was cloning it from a previous one, then most of that stuff should be filled out and selected, but you can always change, like when you clone it before you save it the first time, you can always change the group it goes out to. So if you had different groups that need to be in different surveys or whatever.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think no questions today, it sounds like. Great job, Nick, and thank you, everybody.